My name is Rob Legato, and I'm a visual effects supervisor. And I would say the three things that one needs to do this job and do it well is, one is courage, the courage of your own convictions, so you can execute whatever you think is the most appropriate thing. Two is a story sense, that anything that you design or create or assist in, it's really in line with telling the story. Whatever the film is about, however it's going to be done, you really want to be able to only think in story sense. And three is to think as other people think. You think as the director thinks, as the cameraman thinks. So when you suggest or do or create or photograph your particular portions of the thing, it's as those other people might have done it, so that when your work is put into the movie, it's seamless and it looks like just one film and not a separation of different types of tasks or disciplines. Part of the talent of this kind of thing is a bit of a chameleon, where on any particular one shot, you have to be a different type of filmmaker to make sure that the part that you're supplying or doing, you're adding, subtracting, sometimes doing the whole thing, really feels like someone else did it, like the director did it, the cameraman did it, the conjunction of all of them put together do it. So you have to have all these different styles and sort of master them to a certain degree, where you could bounce back and forth and say, this is the most appropriate for this shot, this is the most appropriate for that. So this sort of chameleon ability to observe how everybody does things, and then how you would then enact it for whatever shot that comes up. In Hugo, we try to incorporate just about every bit of filmmaking that was done in the day, and the day was 1905. I mean, that was back then. And I was influenced so much by the fact that film itself was a trick, was a magic trick. 24 frames, or actually less, 16 frames, and you wind it up in a projector and you put it on a wall. No one's ever seen anything, never seen a picture come to life. So that just persistence of vision, that initial gag, so to speak, was a magic trick. And then we incorporate that throughout the film. That we had flip books, we had little zoetrope things as the flying papers were going around. And any time that we could actually say, let's not do something computer generated or computer oriented, let's do something that we could do in camera, we did. I think one of the more important assets that you can have in this sort of line of work is courage. You have an idea, and it's very easy to be talked out of your idea, and it sort of becomes like a committee decision. So if you have the courage of your own convictions, where you just decide how I want to do it because you're influenced by the story, by the characters, by the director, the cameraman, all those factors melt together, and you say, I want to do it this way, then you have to make sure you do it that way. Because if you don't, it's part of an idea and it never really works. So actually full-on courage of, I think this is the way to go, and I'm going to force it into being, pretty much, is one of the key assets I think that you have to do it well. One of the scenes in Hugo was where you first time meet young Hugo, and you see him travel basically through the back alleys and the bowels of the train station he occupies. And we wanted to do it, you know, in a similar vein to Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas shot, the famous Steadicam shot. And in our particular case, there was no one set, there was no one place that we could actually film it. So we had to film it in five separate sets, 5 different actions. In fact, not even the same boy. It was Asa Butterfield in one part, it was his stand-in as the other part. And my job was to basically create it as if it's all one piece, make it feel like it's a Steadicam shot, and then shoot all the individual elements, and then eventually when it all gets put together, it feels like it's one, basically, Copacabana Goodfellas shot. Well, it's a tough question, how George Méliès influenced our careers, because everybody we've ever studied was influenced by George Méliès. He was the absolute pioneer. So inadvertently, I would be imitating George Méliès because I was imitating somebody else who was inspired by him. So he essentially created the vocabulary that we now use today. And the joy I had is when I went back to actually study him personally, all the references, all the things that I've practiced and tried and done, he did. So it was sort of like, I was very humbled by the absolute incredible talent that he had. And so the joy of making the movie for me was stepping into his shoes, in essence, and trying to do him justice. And that part was pretty thrilling. I think the thing that excites me the most is having an idea and it's an obtuse idea. It's a thought pattern. Wouldn't this be great if I could convey this? And it's not nuts and bolts. It's not like you can't put your finger on it. You just have to feel it and do it. And if every once in a while you get it, and it shows up and it sort of transcends all the little techniques that you use to get it there, it just, all those melt away and you're left with the picture, and then you get a reaction from an audience. And that's a pretty thrilling moment. Because it literally is not, calculated. It's felt, and so to be able to do that, it's like you have this idea in your head, and you build it. Now it's real. Now other people can see what's in your brain, and there's something kind of fun about that. I mean, one of the magic things in Hugo was the actually using the new art form of depth, where people just assume it's like a gag that you add it later. But if you, again, act like it's part of the art form of making the movie, the depth now enhances the illusion you're trying to create. And it could be a sense of loneliness or despair. But the fact that you have this small little figure in this giant cavernous place creates another emotion that you could not necessarily create without using 3D. And so all of a sudden it became, let's explore this other new art form, this ability to add depth as part of the storytelling process. And when it works, it's pretty thrilling, because you can't see it anywhere else except in a 3D version of this particular movie. And every shot was lovingly done that way. What could depth do to help me tell the story? How can it be used to propel the drama of the moment, not the sort of technical expertise of the moment? So it became like we discovered a new tool in the tool shed to use to tell a story, and that gets pretty thrilling.